Brian Kelly got into his press conference yesterday talking about the big win against Ole Miss at home, 45-20, and he said something that was fascinating to me. We exerted our will on this program today. How many times have you been able to say that as an LSU fan the day after a game? Yeah, we came in and we imposed our will against a top 10 team in the country. You're used to saying that previously, but under the previous regime, that wasn't something you said quite as much. With Brian Kelly in year one, you're already saying that. Again, 45-20 was the final score in Death Valley yesterday. There was a whole lot of fun being had on that Tiger sideline. It wasn't fun the entirety of the game, though. Early, got down 17-3. Jackson Dart was kind of having a day. The run game was sort of beginning to work for Ole Miss. Judkins was having a day on the ground, and you started to say, all right, how do we respond? We'd seen this team on multiple occasions battle back. We knew they were gritty. We knew they had a lot of fight, a lot of heart. But for them to go on a 42-3 run, I mean, that was beyond a clinic. I mean, Joe Fouché, no relation to Bobby Boucher, said game blouses when he got that one-hand interception in the end zone and sort of turned the tide for good in that game. But there is a lot to get into. I think the biggest thing that I took away off the top was, for LSU, this was like a definitive directional step for their program. Like the win against Florida last week, at Florida no less, was like the foot in the ground moment. But this game, like I said, to beat a top 10 team was okay, we've taken that foot in the ground, we've pushed off that foot in the ground, and we're headed a completely other direction. Brian Kelly's got this program working in year one. In year one, Brian Kelly has this thing already humming. How impressive is that? Usually a rebuild would take 2 to 3 years, but this wasn't a rebuild, right? We already knew that. They had tools inside of this locker room to access, to put into play. Enter Jayden Daniels. How big was he yesterday? How much of a difference do we see in him from game one to that Florida game to yesterday? I mean, Brian Kelly was talking about it. He's like, he honestly has become comfortable in our system. We now trust him fully, and he's going to do some good things for us the rest of the way. The way that I'm looking at this, Jayden Daniels has thrown the governor off. Like when you have a car that can go pretty fast, but you understand there is something on that engine, the governor, that's keeping it from reaching maximum capacity. Jayden Daniels took that thing, threw it off yesterday, and this thing is rolling offensively. Scored over 40 points yet again. 121 yards on the ground, 3 touchdowns. For the second week in the row, had 3 rushing touchdowns. 21 of 28, really efficient through the air. 248 yards and 2 touchdowns. Did a great job. When he got out of the pocket, when he got flushed out of the pocket, he found his receivers. It wasn't just get out of the pocket, scramble, and run. Did a great job being a catalyst for this offense. Not just a cog, but a catalyst. And you can't say enough good things about him and his maturation. Let's talk about the defense. Matt House, to this point in the year, for my money, has been the best adjuster in college football. Joe Fouché, like we talked about, had that interception, turned the tables for this program. Harold Perkins, just a freshman. He was at prom not too long ago, coming off the edge for this team. He's going to be a dog for years to come. They got a field goal after they were up 17 points. That was it. They turned the water off. This program in year one has a chance to do some really good things. In the first year of Brian Kelly's regime, they have a chance to get it done. Wow. Where do we even go from here? It gets interesting. Let's just say that. It gets interesting for LSU because they have a bye week, and then guess what? They welcome Alabama to Death Valley. And if you know anything about the LSU-Alabama game, you know that you got to throw the records out the window. Similar to that game against Auburn and similar to that game against Florida, for LSU, you just sort of don't pack common sense. You don't pack logic. You don't pack reason. Don't pack any of those things because you don't need them for that game. LSU has a chance now in the West. Are we picking them to win it? Let's hold your horses. But I'm just saying, for them to have such a definitive direction under Brian Kelly in the first year says something about what this program is going to be going forward. And the buy-in is there. That's another thing we talked about with this program. How long would it take for the bad to get out and the good to get in? It still remains to be seen because I think you get a lot of that bad out when you lose, and they just haven't lost that much. But the buy-in from this program that he's created in year one cannot be overstated because you got to have everybody pulling the rope the same direction to get it done. To beat a top 10 team, you do. Otherwise, you get exposed. We saw a lot about how far this culture has come in the Brian Kelly era. Not to knock Ed Orgeron, but you have seen multiple times, Tiger fans know, you've seen guys more or less quit on that program. Whether it was public or whether it was behind closed doors, you have seen people wave the white flag and say uncle when things weren't going well. We have seen none of that under Brian Kelly, and there's been opportunity. Even though they've won some games and they've done well, there have been opportunities for guys to say, you know what, not for me. Also, the offensive line. They have every excuse in the book they could make. I didn't see any yesterday. Again, another 100-yard rusher from Jayden Daniels. The backfield played really well. 2 true freshmen playing tackle. This team just continues to find ways to get it done. And that's what great teams do. So this first year was kind of a house money year for Brian Kelly. They've got a lot on the table right now. They're not playing like it's their first year under a new coach. They're playing like they're playing like they've got some things to accomplish in 2022. So I'm excited to see how it goes the rest of the way for them. But Brian Kelly and company get a huge win, a definitive directional win against a top 10 team in LSU at home, 45-20. The Tigers victorious yet again. This has been The Hard Count. I'm JD Piquel. Nick Brake does the heavy lifting. You can help drive this whole operation by subscribing to the channel. It gives us a better gauge for what you want to see so we can do more of that on this program, all right? Follow me on Instagram and on Twitter at JD Piquel. We interact with those socials a lot to bring that to this party. Again, subscribe so we can have you along for the ride. We're going to keep the party rolling. We will see y'all next time. Hey y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.